Henry Coleman here in studio. Thanks to our friends at Texas Aggies United. What's up, man?
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
I paid you a compliment privately. I'm going to do it on the air. Henry is always so accommodating to all the fans, to media. Like, yeah, your mom, who's on social media, I love to see her stuff. You're always so kind, man, and it's genuine too. I know it's probably hard to hear a compliment and like respond to it, but I did want to start off with that because I saw you at Bucky's press conference, and it seemed like it was important for you to be there.
Oh, of course. I have a true love for this university. I'm thankful for Coach Williams and what he did and impacted my life and changed my life. But, I still have a real love for this university. And so for Coach Bucky and to be there and to support, and it just meant a lot to me. Just to see that and see, the culture that we built around that and how Coach Bucky is going to carry that on with his new staff and his new players.
How has the last 2-3 weeks been from, there's so many emotions, right? You get to the tournament, you win that first game, you think you're going to win the second one. Unfortunately, you don't. Buzz leaves a little bit later. Just the whole kind of roller coaster of events the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that, a roller coaster. And so for myself, I've kind of reflected on my time here, try to focus on all the good things because, when it gets to the end, you kind of want to maybe focus on what went wrong. I could have done this, I could have done that. But I think I've lived with no regrets. And I felt like I've, made an impact on this university, whether that's basketball or whether that's just being in the community. I feel like I've made an impact and I've tried my hardest every single day.
When you think about your time at A&M as a whole, how do you kind of look at this era of Aggie basketball and what you guys did? And did it reach? It probably didn't reach your ultimate expectations or goals because you want to win a national championship, right? So, but overall, from where it was when you got here to where you guys left it.
I think we did an unbelievable job, and for us, so much for us, it might not always be the accolades. I've seen Manny grow in an unbelievable way. I've seen Wade go from a guy who said he was too small. He can't play in the SEC. He's not built for it. To being one of the best that we've seen at this university and one of the best that we've ever seen in the SEC. And so, you've seen all these guys grow as players, but even more importantly, as young men. And so for us, I don't think it was the accolades that, we focused on. Yeah, we wanted to win the SEC. Yeah, we wanted to win a national championship. But I think us growing as young men and getting prepared for the real world is something that I think, we always will wear on our heart.
I think for fans, too, it's sad that you guys are moving on because it's so rare in today's world of college football to have a group stay together. We watch Hef grow up. We watch Mo grow up. We watched you grow up. Like it's, as from young men to now men.
Yep, and I think that's just truly special. I owe the credit to Coach Williams, but also the staff. I think he surrounded himself with a staff that was, willing to pour into young men, willing to help us and, in the basketball world, but also in life. Every coach had their door open. You could walk up there. You could talk sports. You could talk life. You could talk fishing like I used to do with Coach Lair. Like it was an open environment to where you could always just talk, have a conversation. I think those small conversations helped us in the long run to become better men.
I know you're aware of it, but did it seem rare to have a core group stay together during this era?
Yep. I think it's truly rare because you have friends on other teams and, you see all these people leaving and leaving a good team to go to a bad team. So you see a lot of weird things happening. And so for us to have the core group just speaks to the testament of Texas A&M and Coach Williams because a lot of guys wanted to stay here. A lot of people, were offered certain things to go here, go there, and move back home. But everybody wanted to stay here because of the culture here, because of, you want to go to a baseball game. You want to see, Texas A&M football beat Alabama here. You want to see those things. And so I think that's why a lot of people wanted to stay. And, for us, it was amazing, and we had a lot of fun.
Take me inside of the mind of a 18 to 22-year-old with these distractions. Like, how enticing do they make it sound? Like, hey, man, we could use a guy like you at the 4 here. Like just how that kind of, and if you don't have the nucleus that Buzz had here, how easy it would be like, you know what, I may look at that.
Yeah, I think it goes to your coaching staff, but also goes to the character of the person that you are. If you come to somewhere and you are trying to build something, you are trying to make history, you are trying to impact others' lives, you kind of want to stay around to see that happen. You kind of want to see it blossom. And so for us, I think it was just that we wanted to stay around because we wanted to create a culture, an environment that was fun for fans, that it was fun for other student athletes. It was fun for the guys, the freshmen coming in. We wanted to have a certain culture and environment that was a true one, a real one, and a loving one.
If you guys have a question for Henry, you can text it at 979-693-1150. We'll have Kaylee read some of those thoughts. Did you have a favorite basketball moment at A&M?
That's a difficult one. I want to say Auburn just because it was everything compounding, our habits, our love, our work, our trust, all to come, for it to be on senior night,
right,
to beat the #1 team of the country. I think it just, it's just a microcosm of what we had worked towards our entire time here as far as wanting to be on that pedestal, wanting to be, the best Texas A&M team that we could be. And so I think for all the seniors, the managers that night, to go out like that in front of an amazing crowd that cheered us on the entire time, it's truly special to me.
For me, when I think about while you've been here, my favorite moment was the NIT run because it felt like we're on the verge of something special. Yep. That's what it felt like. And the way the 8-game losing streak had just happened, and then you guys just got so hot. To me, it was like, all right, this is a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I would say that NIT run and that SEC tournament run really changed all of our lives. As far as we all looked in the mirror and said, we can do it. And I think then years after that, we reflected on that like, man, we might be going through a bad loss or a 2-game losing streak or 3-game. Like, remember when we lost 8 guys and how we were able to, will our way out of that, how we were able to be men about that situation. And so for us, I give huge credit to, Quentin Jackson, and his leadership while he was here, because we're all Wade, Henry, Mo, we're all young guys. We had never experienced this before. And so Q's leadership truly changed that season. And I would almost say it kind of changed the trajectory of where Texas A&M basketball was going to go. And so huge shout out to Q for that.
I want to look at things through 2 different lenses. First off, how frustrating it might have been during some scoring droughts that this team had, but conversely, how that defense would often spark this offensive run that would come.
Yeah, and we talked about it since day one here. Defense travels. Wherever you are in the country, what we do, defense travels. And so we always hung our hat on defense. We wanted to be the best defensive team out there. And we went through a little bit of offensive struggles here and there, but I think our defense and what we accomplished on that end, and how, teams probably didn't want to play us the game after because how physical we were, how determined we were on the glass, and how, if there was a loose ball, you had to watch out, because we were going after it. And so huge credit to Coach Devin Johnson and Coach Lair for their, expertise on the defensive end, because it changed. There was a switch that just changed after year one. Like, we have to be the best defensive team, in this conference. And so we just tried our best each and every day at that.
Was it surprising that Buzz left to you?
I would say no. I know Coach very well.
Yeah.
And I know what he is trying to build. He is my guy for life.
Yeah.
He's changed my life, my family's life. And so the respect that I have for him, whether he was at A&M, whether he's at Maryland, whether he went back to Virginia Tech, my respect for him will always stay the same because of the effort and the impact that he had on people's lives.
Right.
And the care that he put in each and every day, being the first person at the gym, no matter what, whether we got in at 2 a.m., whether we had the day off, he was going to be the first person in there. And so I just think that how he carried himself and how he impacted people's lives, it goes beyond basketball.
It's rare, right, for the coach to not only lift with the team, but like be the one who kind of sets the example when it comes to that. It's easy to say it. He did it.
Yeah, and I think, it's funny because when you're on visits and when you're telling, the recruits, yeah, I mean, coach lifts, man. Like, if you can't tell, you see him run up and down the
He's pretty
sidelines.
jacked.
Yeah, coach is jacked. So, but in a serious note, I'm like, he lifts. He goes in there at 5 a.m. And so when you have to go in there at 6, you're like, well, coach is already lifted, man.
Right.
I can't complain now. Coach is 50 years old. He's in there trying to bench press and squat and stuff. And so I think for us, it just was an eye opener. Like, well, if coach is in here, man, we can't complain at all. So it was good.
You were telling me before we started, Pharrell's going to kill it in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah, and I think, his game has just truly blossomed. He was always a good player, but he has turned into a hard player to truly guard. His physicality, him finishing both hands around the rim, has, kind of just, his trajectories just keep going linear and it keeps going straight up. And so for him, I'm excited. And I think he'll truly kill it in the Big Ten.
You think there's some pros on that roster, some guys that are going to play at the next level that you played on?
Yeah. I truly think Pharrell is a pro. I think, Solomon is a pro. I think Wade is one because of his leadership and his willingness to win. He's been doubted his whole life.
Yeah.
And so this is just another step to where he's doubted, and that I know for a fact he's going to outwork every single person in that gym, and he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to try to prove every single person wrong who has doubted him. So I have no doubt that Wade will be successful at the next level.
One thing I learned about you is I kind of knew, but how much of a sports fan you are and a historian too. Did you know much about Bucky before his name came up, Coach Bucky McMillan, and what have you thought since?
Yeah, no, I know he's Coach Trendon Wofford, a guy who ended up going, I think, to LSU, who's an unbelievable high school player. So I'd known a little bit about him. I know I'd watched some Samford games. I watched the big one everybody talks about against Kansas. But, I think his basketball expertise is really, truly, well-versed. I think he's somebody who is a new era coach is what I kind of call it. It's kind of goes outside the box of traditional basketball. And so I think he's super cerebral when it comes to the offensive end. And he's going to be really, really hard to guard. And I think he's coming to the best league and where the pace is up and down. And I think he'll have tremendous, tremendous success in doing that.
I'm a little worried because he doesn't have any players right now, but I feel, and Henry, you've talked to him more than I have. Like when you talk to him, you're like, oh, I want to play for this guy.
Yeah, and he's got a mantra about him that's just very, it's likable.
Yeah.
He's very relatable, and for any type of recruit, you want to go with a coach that's relatable, and a coach that's real. And so with my little conversations with him, I've picked it up early. He's real, and he's sounds like a guy who really tells you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And so I think for, the recruits out there that are, looking at him, I think he's a real deal guy.
What's next for you?
Honestly, don't know right now.
Okay.
Want to work, compliance within, the SEC, Big Ten, any conference. That's what I've worked towards. That's what I love. Staying around the game, but kind of behind the scenes, and just having an impact on young people's lives at the student athlete level.
Could you see yourself staying here?
Potentially, whatever.
Wherever it takes you, right?
Yeah, wherever it takes me. I have a true love for this university. I've seen, what it's done for my life, but also other people's lives. I think that's one thing. When you're going through this, you always want to be selfish and look at yourself. What has it done for me? But you take a step back and you look at, your teammates and you look at how it's impacted Andy's life, how it's impacted Hayden's life, how it impacts Solo's life. It's changed it.
Yeah.
And so I think, this university truly can change your life. There's so many opportunities to learn, to grow, to meet new people. And it's truly special.
I think it was Jamie Morrison who was in the studio not long ago talking about when he got to campus and he was kind of trying to find his way through, and you saw him and you kind of said, hey, Coach, how can I help you? You guys have developed a nice friendship. So, but that's just your personality, right? You see somebody, you help somebody.
And I think it's my personality, but it's a lot of Aggies out there. I think if you see somebody lost on campus, you probably are trying to help them out. And for Coach Morrison, he has been an unbelievable coach, and I think he is a person who is immersed in this university. He truly cares. If you watch, remember watching that Texas game at Texas, and you see how much he cared, how much those girls cared on the floor. And I think it's for that university, but it's also a little bit for him and how he has, created this culture there. So, huge shout out to Coach Morrison.
Before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple things just about what you're into. So, Masters Week, you've already got your plans, right?
Yeah. I'm going to sit at home the rest of the week and just watch the Masters. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good one, especially, when you have the Live guys coming back and, the PGA guys. I still think there's a little bit of beef, between those guys. And so it's always good to have all of them back and to see, the rivalries kind of come back a little bit.
You were telling me you have a pretty good relationship with Sammy.
Yeah, and Sam Bennett. And so, I'm proud of him and, what he's doing and how I know he is about to climb up in the ranks because he's putting in a lot of work and he's developing, as a golfer, but also as a person.
Who's your football team? I don't know if it's pro. In college, I know it's A&M, but who's your team?
The Steelers.
Steelers are your team.
For right now, I'm, a little hesitant on, where we're going.
Yeah.
I've trusted Coach Tomlin the last,
almost 20
years, how long I've been alive and how long my dad told me I had to be a Steelers fan. And so, we need a quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think.
Is it Aaron Rodgers?
If it's Aaron Rodgers, it is. I wouldn't mind taking Aaron Rodgers and then drafting somebody a little bit later. Hopefully Jackson Dart is able to stay around. Will Howard, I wouldn't mind. So, you get under Rodgers and you learn a lot of stuff, so you're able to take over the offense in 1 or 2 years. And so, but I will say that defense still looks beautiful. So
yeah.
That's one thing I'm not worried about, but you got to score points to win a game.
You have an NBA team you follow?
No, not really. I just kind of like watching the games.
Yeah.
I really, truly like watching this, LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves thing.
I love Luka.
And it's special to watch.
Yeah.
And, I've had a, love for that. But I also watch a lot of my old teammates, Mark Williams, who I grew up with. He's playing for the Hornets. And,
Q had a big game recently.
Yeah, I know. And watching Q, I still watch some of the, Jalen Johnson, who plays for the Atlanta Hawks. And so just watching a lot of my old teammates and seeing how, the success they've had, brings a smile to my face.
And Dex as well doing stuff?
Dex is doing unbelievable. He's still defending at a high level. I always see his dunks on Twitter or Instagram, and so he's doing real well.
Talk to me about Andy, working with him, because when he got here, people knew you. Not a lot of people knew about Andy, and I think he's going to go down as one of the all-time favorites.
Yeah, I think it's his personality, and it's his story, where he's from. He plays with such a chip on his shoulder, but he also has such gratitude for being at this university, for being here, for being around a lot of, people that really care about him. I think he just wore it on his, on his shoulder about how blessed he was to truly be in this position. And that's how he played. I will say he was the hardest playing guy on that floor each and every night. And I'm super thankful for him. And then when he started doing the trumpets and the band, it just became, even better. But for him, he's been somebody who's changed my life, opened my eyes about, how to live with gratitude each and every single day.
And then you grew up watching LeBron. Is he your GOAT?
I would say Michael Jordan.
Oh, okay. You can stay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Michael Jordan for me.
Well, didn't Buzz make you guys watch The Last Dance? I feel like that, or he quoted.
Yeah, he always quotes it, and so I like Michael Jordan just because of, I feel like he was feared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not saying LeBron's not feared, but I feel like
he's loved, right? Like
yeah.
The opponent's like, hey, LeBron, hug me. Yeah.
But I feel like Michael Jordan was feared.
Was Kobe too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Henry, man, you're a class act. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you coming here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.